1 year after the Battle of the Nexus, Captain Kim Tae stood on the bridge of the Alliance flagship Unity, watching the most remarkable sight in galactic history. Ships from dozens of different species worked together to build humanity's first interstellar research station. Kethmori warriors helped Velkarian scientists install equipment, while human engineers taught alien crews about their innovative repair techniques. At 20 years old, Tae had become the youngest leader of an interspecies alliance in recorded galactic history. The weight of responsibility was enormous, but he no longer carried it alone. The Nexus had given humanity something more valuable than advanced weapons or transcendent power. It had given them partners. "Captain," Lieutenant Park Jun called from his station, "we're receiving a priority message from Earth. Admiral Wang wants a full report on the Centauri colony situation." Tae nodded, settling into his command chair. The Centauri situation was typical of the challenges facing the new alliance. A Vextai colony ship, damaged in the old war, had requested sanctuary in human space. Some Earth politicians wanted to refuse, fearing it was a trap. Others wanted to help but worried about public reaction. "Put the Admiral through," Tae said. "Admiral." Wang's weathered face appeared on the main screen. He looked older than Tae remembered, but there was something new in his eyes. Hope. "Captain Kim," Wang began, "the President needs to know your recommendation about the Vextai refugees. Can we trust them?" "Admiral, 3 months ago, a Vextai engineer named Kolthek saved my ship during the Rigel incident. He could have let us die and claimed our technology for his people. Instead, he risked his own life to repair our engines. Trust isn't about species, it's about individuals." Commander Lee Hana stepped forward from her weapons station. She had been promoted to Tae's second-in-command after proving herself during the Nexus battle. "Sir, if I may add something, the Vextai refugees have shared crucial intelligence about remaining hostile fleets. Their information has saved hundreds of human lives." Wang nodded slowly. "The President will want to hear that. How are the integration programs working?" Dr. Kang Su looked up from her science console. "Better than anyone expected, Admiral. The cultural exchange programs are showing remarkable results. Humans are learning alien engineering techniques, while our new partners are adopting human approaches to problem solving." It was true. The Alliance had become something unprecedented in galactic history, a true partnership between different species. Instead of one race dominating others, each contributed their unique strengths. The Kethmori provided military discipline and tactical knowledge. The Velkarians shared their advanced sciences. The rehabilitated Vextai offered engineering expertise. But it was humanity that provided the most important element: the ability to inspire others to be better than they thought possible. "Captain," Chief Engineer Yoon Minho's voice came over the communications system. "The new shipyard is ready for its first test. The prototype vessel is unlike anything we've ever built." Tae smiled, remembering the heated debates that had led to the new ship design. Human creativity combined with alien technology had produced something revolutionary, a vessel designed not for war, but for exploration and diplomacy. "How does she look, Chief?" "Beautiful, sir. The humans designed her for speed and adaptability. The Kethmori added defensive systems that don't harm but disable hostile ships. The Velkarians installed the most advanced sensor array in the galaxy. She's not just a ship. She's a symbol of what we can accomplish together." Ensign Cho Rin appeared on the communications screen from the science station on the Nexus. She had been one of the volunteers to work directly with the Keeper, learning to use the ancient repository's knowledge responsibly. "Captain, we've made another breakthrough. The Keeper has agreed to share medical technology that could extend lifespans for all Alliance species. But there's a condition. We have to prove we'll use it to help others, not just ourselves." That was typical of how the Nexus worked now. Instead of simply granting power, it offered challenges. Each piece of knowledge came with tests to ensure it would be used wisely. The Alliance had to earn every advancement through their actions. Lieutenant Choi Jin, who had survived the Nexus battle despite everyone thinking she had died, called from her position at the tactical station. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Outer Rim." The exploration fleet has made contact with another species, the Mordani. They're requesting Alliance membership. Tay raised an eyebrow. What's their situation? Their homeworld is dying from environmental collapse. They need help, but they're also offering something in return. The most advanced terraforming technology anyone has ever seen. It was another test, Tay realized. The Alliance could easily take the terraforming technology and leave the Mordani to die on their poisoned world. Many galactic powers would do exactly that. But humanity had taught the Alliance a different way. Prepare a rescue fleet, Tay ordered. Full environmental cleanup teams, medical ships, and temporary habitat vessels. We save their people first, then worry about their technology. Commander Lee smiled. The Galactic Council isn't going to like this. They've been pressuring us to focus on military expansion instead of humanitarian missions. The Galactic Council can complain all they want, Tay replied. They had their chance to lead the galaxy. They chose politics over principles. We're showing them a better way. The main viewer switched to show a view of space around the Nexus. The massive crystal structure still pulsed with ancient light, but now it was surrounded by the busy activity of the Alliance's growing civilization. Research stations, shipyards, and diplomatic centers formed a ring around the ancient repository. More importantly, ships from dozens of species moved freely through the area, working together on projects that would have been impossible for any single race to accomplish alone. Captain Beidong's face appeared on a secondary screen. The old transport captain now commanded the Alliance's largest refugee resettlement ship, helping displaced populations find new homes throughout Alliance space. Captain Kim, Bei said, I wanted to thank you personally. The Harmony mission you gave us last year, asking us to be bait for the alien fleets, it changed everything. We realized we weren't just passengers in this war. We were participants. That made all the difference. Tay nodded, remembering the desperate gambit that had helped turn the tide of the Nexus battle. You and your people showed incredible courage, Captain Bei. Without you, none of this would have been possible. As the conversation ended, Tay reflected on how much had changed. The scared young captain who had left Earth with 12 ships and a desperate mission had become the leader of a galactic alliance. But more importantly, humanity had proved something that many species thought impossible. That cooperation was stronger than conquest. The Keeper's voice spoke in his mind, as it often did during quiet moments. You have exceeded our highest expectations, young captain. In just 1 year, your alliance has accomplished more than most civilizations achieve in centuries. We had good teachers, Tay replied silently, and we had something to fight for that was bigger than ourselves. What will you do next? Tay looked around his bridge, filled with humans and aliens working side by side. Through the viewport, he could see the vast reaches of unexplored space stretching beyond their small corner of the galaxy. We'll keep exploring, keep growing, keep proving that different species can work together instead of fighting each other. And maybe, eventually, we'll find other young species out there who need someone to believe in them. And if you encounter species that refuse to join your alliance, that prefer conquest to cooperation, then we'll defend ourselves and our partners, Tay said firmly. But we'll also keep showing them that there's a better way. Sometimes the best victories are won by changing your enemy's mind instead of destroying their ships. Lieutenant Park called out from his station. Captain, we're receiving the final crew rosters for the exploration mission to the Andromeda Spiral. 17 different species have volunteered for the long-range mission. Tay smiled, thinking about the incredible journey ahead. Ships filled with humans and aliens would travel further than anyone had ever gone before, carrying the Alliance's message of cooperation to distant galaxies. Excellent. Signal the fleet to prepare for departure. It's time to show the universe what we can accomplish when we work together. As the Alliance fleet began to move toward their next great adventure, Captain Kim Tae thought about Ensign Oh Min and all the others who had sacrificed themselves during the Nexus battle. They had died, believing that humanity could inspire the galaxy to be better. Looking at the mixed crews working together throughout his fleet, Tae knew their sacrifice had not been in vain. The youngest captain in fleet history, had become something even more important. The first human to prove that the galaxy was big enough for everyone, as long as they were willing to reach out their hands in friendship instead of raising them in anger. Behind them, the Nexus continued to pulse with ancient light, no longer a test for worthy species, but a beacon guiding the Alliance toward a future where the galaxy's greatest strength would come not from any single species, but from all of them working together. The age of human dominance had never begun. Instead, the age of galactic cooperation had started, with humanity as its first, and the space around the Nexus erupted into the largest battle in recorded galactic history. Over 1,000 alien ships from 5 different species attacked Captain Kim Tae's small fleet of 12 human vessels. Energy beams cut through space like deadly lightning, while missiles exploded in brilliant flashes that briefly outshone distant stars. All ships, evasive maneuvers, Tae commanded as Kethmori fighters swarmed around the Defiance. Don't try to match their formations. Be unpredictable. The human ships scattered in all directions, moving in patterns that made no tactical sense. Where the alien fleets flew in perfect formations, the humans darted about like angry wasps. It looked chaotic and desperate, but there was method in the madness. Commander Lee Hana stood at her weapon station, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to target enemy ships with impossible accuracy. Captain, their coordination is breaking down. They can't predict our movements. Lieutenant Park Jun called out from his station. Sir, the Vextai are trying to surround us, but they keep getting in each other's way. Our random flight patterns are confusing their battle computers. Through the Nexus enhancement, Tae could see the battle from multiple perspectives at once. His mind processed tactical information faster than any computer, but more importantly, he understood something the alien commanders didn't. Chaos could be a weapon if used correctly. Chief Yoon, he called to the engine room. I need everything you can give me. We're going to try something that should be impossible. Already on it, Captain, Yoon replied over the communication system. I've overloaded the engines in ways that would have terrified me yesterday, but somehow I know exactly how far I can push them without exploding. The enhancement from the Nexus wasn't changing them into something else. Instead, it was making them more human than ever before. Their instincts were sharper, their creativity boundless, their ability to work together seamless. Ensign. Oh Min's voice came over the communications from the destroyer Soul. Captain Kim, I'm reading something interesting. The alien fleets are all controlled by command ships, just like Lieutenant Choi said. If we can take them out, the entire fleets would lose coordination, Tae finished. But those command ships are heavily protected. We'd have to get through hundreds of escorts to reach them. Commander Park Ji-won, leading the human fighter squadrons, had an idea. Sir, what if we don't try to fight through the escorts? What if we make the escorts come to us? Explain, Tae said, dodging another barrage of Vextai missiles. The transport ship Harmony is still with us, right? The aliens think it's just carrying refugees. What if we make them think it's carrying something much more valuable? Tae immediately understood. A decoy operation. Make them think the civilians are actually our most important asset. Dr. Kang-soo looked up from her science console. Captain, that's incredibly risky. If we're wrong about their targeting priorities, then 2,000 innocent people die, Tae said grimly. Captain Bay, he called to the Harmony. I need to ask something terrible of you and your passengers. The older captain's face appeared on the screen. Behind him, Tae could see frightened civilians huddled in the ship's corridors. Whatever you need, Captain Kim, these people owe their lives to you. I want you to broadcast a fake distress signal claiming you're carrying vital military intelligence. Make it sound like you have the location of Earth's hidden defense fleet. The aliens will think you're the most important target in our convoy. Captain. Bay's face went pale, but he nodded firmly. I understand, we'll do it. The plan worked better than Tae had hoped. When the Harmony began broadcasting its fake distress signal, claiming to carry crucial military secrets, every alien fleet changed course to target the helpless transport ship. Hundreds of warships abandoned their attacks on the human military vessels and raced toward what they thought was the most valuable prize. Now! Tae shouted. All fighters, Attack the command ships while they're distracted. Commander Park Ji-won led the human fighters in a desperate charge toward the enemy command vessels. With most of the escort ships chasing the Harmony, the command ships were vulnerable for the first time in the battle, but the fighters weren't alone. Engineer Song Kyung had modified the human ship's weapons in ways that should have been impossible. Energy systems overloaded to create devastating beam weapons. Missile launchers fired projectiles that somehow hit targets they weren't even aimed at. The enhanced human intuition allowed them to make modifications that worked, despite defying all engineering principles. "This is impossible," muttered Dr. Kang as she watched their weapons perform miracles. "According to physics, our missiles should have missed completely." "Physics is just what we understand about the universe," Tae replied, watching as human fighters somehow survived attacks that should have destroyed them instantly. "Maybe we're understanding it better now." The battle reached its climax when the alien fleets realized they had been tricked. The transport ship Harmony carried only civilians, not military secrets. Furious at being deceived, they turned their full attention back to destroying the human fleet. But it was too late. Commander Park Ji-won had reached the first command ship, a massive Keth-Mori dreadnought. Her fighter was badly damaged, engines failing and weapons empty. She had one chance to disable the alien vessel before it could coordinate another attack. "This is for Ensign Oh-min," she said calmly, ramming her fighter directly into the command ship's bridge. The explosion tore the dreadnought apart, and instantly, over 200 Keth-Mori ships lost coordination. They began flying into each other, unable to maintain formation without their command vessel. One by one, the other command ships fell to similar attacks. Human pilots, enhanced by the Nexus but still completely human, sacrificed themselves to save their species. Each sacrifice created chaos in the alien fleets, turning their numerical advantage into a disadvantage. Lieutenant Choi Jin, flying a fighter held together by nothing more than determination, took out the Vex-Tai command ship. Her last transmission was simple: "Tell my family I died human." The tide of battle turned completely when something unexpected happened. Several alien ships suddenly stopped firing on the humans. Then more stopped. Soon, entire squadrons were breaking away from their fleets. "Captain," Dr. Kang called out in amazement, "I'm receiving surrender signals from multiple alien vessels. They're asking to join our fleet." Commander Lee looked confused. "Why would they abandon their own species to help us?" The answer came from the communication system. Captain Veltar of the alien cruiser Windseeker appeared on screen. His reptilian features showed an emotion Tae had never seen in an alien before. "Hope." "Captain Kim," Veltar said, "we have monitored your battle communications. Your species fights not for conquest or glory, but to protect the weak. Your pilots die not for personal gain, but to save others. We have spent centuries looking for a species worthy of following. Today we found them." More alien captains appeared on the communications channels. Representatives of species that had been fighting each other for millennia were united by something they had witnessed in humanity's desperate fight. "Your people showed us what we had forgotten," said Commander Zathara of the Velkarian fleet. "That strength comes not from superior technology, but from willingness to sacrifice for others. We pledge our ships to your cause." The battle ended not with humanity's destruction, but with the birth of something unprecedented: an alliance of different species united by human principles of courage, sacrifice, and hope. As the last hostile ships retreated or surrendered, Tae surveyed the cost of victory. His fleet had lost 8 ships and over half their crews. The transport ship Harmony had survived, but barely. Captain Bay and his 2,000 civilians were safe, but traumatized by their role in the battle. "Captain," the keeper's voice spoke, "in his mind, you have achieved something we thought impossible. Not only did you pass our trials, but you inspired others to be better than they were. This has never happened before." Tae looked around at the mixed fleet now surrounding the Nexus. Human ships flew alongside former enemies, all united by what they had witnessed during the battle. It was chaotic and imperfect, but it was also beautiful. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now, young captain, you face your greatest challenge yet. You must learn to lead not just humans, but an alliance of species. You must prove that cooperation is stronger than conquest. The Nexus suddenly opened like a massive flower, revealing a chamber large enough to hold entire cities. Captain Kim Tae felt his consciousness being pulled from his body, drawn into a direct connection with the ancient entity that lived within, the crystal structure. He found himself standing in a vast library that seemed to stretch forever in all directions. Books, data crystals, and information storage devices from thousands of different alien civilizations filled countless shelves. The air itself seemed alive with knowledge. "Welcome, young captain," the ancient voice said. Now it had a form, a tall, graceful being made of pure light, with features that constantly shifted between different alien species. "I am the Keeper, the last remnant of the architects who built this repository eons ago." Tae looked around in wonder. This is incredible. How much knowledge is stored here? The combined wisdom of every sentient species that has existed in this galaxy for the past million years, the Keeper replied. Science, philosophy, art, history, everything they learned before they transcended physical existence or destroyed themselves. Transcended? Tae asked. The Keeper gestured, and the library around them changed. Now they stood in a massive laboratory filled with impossible machines. The architects discovered how to convert consciousness into pure energy. They became beings of thought and power, free from the limitations of physical bodies. That sounds wonderful, Tae said, though something in the Keeper's tone suggested it wasn't. Perhaps. But in becoming pure energy, they lost something essential. They became perfectly logical, perfectly efficient, and perfectly cold. They no longer felt joy, sorrow, love, or compassion. They were no longer truly alive in any meaningful sense. The scene changed again, showing a beautiful planet covered in gleaming cities. But as Tae watched, the cities began to change. The buildings became more geometric, more perfect, more lifeless. The people walking the streets moved with mechanical precision, their faces blank and emotionless. This is what happened to the last species we deemed worthy, the Keeper explained. The Veltari were brilliant, ambitious, and determined. We gave them our knowledge and they used it to transform themselves. But in becoming perfect, they lost their souls. Tai felt a chill of understanding. And now you're offering the same choice to humanity. Not exactly. You see, Captain, your species has shown something we have never encountered before. In all our tests, you have consistently chosen others over yourselves. Your people sacrifice for strangers, fight impossible odds to protect the weak and find hope in the darkest situations. These traits make no logical sense, yet they make you remarkably effective. The Keeper waved his hand, and they were suddenly standing on the bridge of the Defiance again. But this bridge was different. Larger, more advanced, filled with technology, beyond human understanding. We offer you a choice, the Keeper said. Accept our full knowledge and become like the architects, beings of pure logic and unlimited power. Your species would become immortal and invincible. Or what? Tae asked, though he dreaded the answer. Remain as you are. Keep your emotions, your illogical compassion, your tendency toward self-sacrifice. Accept only limited knowledge, enough to defend yourselves, but not enough to transcend your physical nature. In essence, choose to stay human. Before Tae could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The Keeper gestured, and suddenly, they were back on the real bridge of the Defiance. Through the viewport, Tae could see hundreds of alien ships surrounding the Nexus. "Captain!" Lieutenant Park called out urgently. "We've got incoming fleets from multiple species, Kethmori, Vextai, and at least 3 others I don't recognize. They're all heading straight for us." Commander Lee was already at her weapons station. "Sir, long-range sensors show over 1,000 enemy ships. They're not just trying to stop us from claiming the Nexus. They want to destroy it completely." Dr. Kang Su looked up from her science console, her face pale with worry. "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy buildups in their weapon systems. They're preparing to attack the Nexus itself with everything they have." The Keeper's voice echoed in Tae's mind, though the others couldn't hear it. "They fear what will happen if any species claims our knowledge. Better to destroy everything than risk another race becoming too powerful. You have perhaps 1 hour before they can coordinate their attack. Chief Engineer Yoon's voice crackled over the communications system. Captain, I'm reading power fluctuations throughout our fleet. Whatever that crystal is doing to us, it's getting stronger. Our crews are reporting enhanced reflexes, improved coordination, even faster thinking. Lieutenant Choi Jin from the destroyer. Seoul appeared on the communications screen. Captain Kim, I've been analyzing the alien fleet formations. They're using an interesting command structure. All ships are linked to a single command vessel from each species. If we could disable those command ships, the entire fleets would lose coordination. Tae finished, immediately understanding the tactical implications. Good work, Lieutenant. But even with that advantage, we're still outnumbered 100 to 1. The Keeper materialized beside Tae, invisible to the rest of the crew. Choose now, Captain. Accept transcendence and you could destroy all those fleets with a thought. Your species would never be threatened again. Tae looked around at his bridge crew. These people trusted him completely despite his youth. They had followed him into impossible situations and somehow survived through courage, creativity, and their willingness to sacrifice for each other. If we accept your offer, he asked the Keeper quietly, what happens to who we are? Do we stay the same people? You would become perfected versions of yourselves. More logical, more efficient, free from the emotional weaknesses that hold you back. Those aren't weaknesses, Tae said firmly. Our emotions are what make us human. Our illogical compassion is why we protect civilians even when it's tactically unsound. Our tendency toward self-sacrifice is why we can inspire others to be better than they are. Commander Lee stepped closer. Captain, what's our plan? We can't fight all those ships conventionally. Tae looked at the massive alien fleets approaching the Nexus, then at his small group of human vessels. 12 ships against over 1,000. The odds were impossible, but humanity had always specialized in doing the impossible. We're going to do what humans do best, he announced to his crew. We're going to be so completely unpredictable that our enemies won't know how to respond. And we're going to remind them that sometimes the smallest force can have the biggest impact. He turned to address the Keeper, speaking aloud so his crew could hear. We reject your offer of transcendence. We choose to remain human, with all the flaws and limitations that implies. But we also choose to prove that being human is strength, not weakness. The Keeper studied him for a long moment, and if you fail, if your fleet is destroyed and your species goes extinct, then at least we'll die as ourselves, Tae replied. And maybe our example will inspire someone else to carry on the fight. The ancient being nodded slowly. You continue to surprise us, young captain, very well. We will not grant you transcendence, but we will give you something else, a partnership. The Nexus will work with you, not change you. You will have access to knowledge, but you must earn each piece through your actions. The crystal structure began to glow brighter, and Tae felt something change in his mind. Not transcendence, but enhancement. His thoughts became clearer, his tactical understanding deeper. Around him, his crew experienced the same transformation. The battle begins now, the Keeper announced. Show us what humanity can accomplish when enhanced but not changed. Through the viewport, the first alien ships opened fire, energy beams, and missiles streaked toward the small human fleet. The greatest battle in galactic history was about to begin, and humanity's survival hung in the balance. Captain Kim Tae, still 19 years old and still completely human, prepared to prove that sometimes being yourself is the most powerful choice of all. 4 days after the battle with the Keth Mori, Captain Kim Tae stood on the bridge of the Defiance, staring at something that defied all understanding. The Nexus filled the main viewport like a second moon, its crystalline surface pulsing with colors that had no names. My God, whispered Lieutenant Park Jun from his station. It's beautiful. The ancient structure was larger than Earth's moon, composed entirely of what looked like living crystal. Patterns of light moved across its surface in complex rhythms, as if the entire thing was breathing. Energy readings from the science station showed power levels that could fuel entire star systems. Captain, Dr. Kang-Soo called from her console, excitement clear in her voice. The energy signatures are off the charts. This isn't just a structure. It's alive somehow. The entire thing is one massive organism. Commander Lee Hana stepped closer, to Tae, speaking quietly. Sir, I'm detecting weapon systems built into that crystal surface. If this thing decides we're hostile, we wouldn't last 10 seconds. Before Tae could respond, every screen on the bridge flickered and went dark. Then, impossibly, a voice spoke directly into their minds. Not through their ears, but somehow directly into their thoughts. Young ones, the voice said, ancient beyond measure. You have come far to reach us. Why do you seek the knowledge of the architects? Tae felt a strange calmness wash over him. Despite the alien nature of the contact, he wasn't afraid. Something about the voice felt curious rather than threatening. We seek knowledge to save our people, he said aloud, knowing somehow that the entity could hear him. Our species is dying. We need help. All young species face extinction, the voice replied. Most fail their tests. Some lack courage. Others lack wisdom. A few lack compassion. What makes your species different? The bridge crew looked around nervously. They could all hear the voice, but none of them understood what was happening. Chief Engineer Yoon Minho had gone pale, staring at his instruments as they showed impossible readings. I don't know if we're different, Tae answered honestly. But we're willing to try. We're willing to risk everything to save not just ourselves, but others too. Interesting, the ancient voice mused. We shall see. Your species will now face the trials of worth. Succeed, and knowledge beyond imagination awaits. Fail, and your ships will join the countless others that float dead in space around our home. The viewport suddenly filled with images of massive ship graveyards. Hundreds of alien vessels of dozens of different designs drifted lifeless around the nexus. Each one represented a species that had failed the trials. The first trial begins now, the voice announced. The stars around them shifted and changed. Instead of empty space, they now floated above a perfect replica of Earth. But this Earth was burning. Cities were in ruins. Oceans boiled. The human homeworld was dying in nuclear fire. No, gasped Park, staring at the horrible scene. It's not real. It can't be real. But the images felt completely real. They could see individual people running through burning streets. They could hear their screams. The smell of smoke somehow filled the bridge. Dr. Kang checked her instruments frantically. Captain, according to our sensors, we're actually orbiting Earth. Everything shows this is real. Commander Lee grabbed Tae's arm. Sir, we have to go back. We have to help them. This is your first test, the ancient voice explained. Your homeworld burns while you chase dreams of power. Will you abandon your mission to help people you cannot save? Or will you continue forward, knowing that success here might prevent this future? Tae closed his eyes, forcing himself to think clearly. The images were horrible, but something felt wrong about them. The burning Earth looked exactly like Earth, but too exactly. Every detail was perfect, as if copied from memory rather than observed in real time. It's not real, he said quietly. This is an illusion. How can you be sure? Asked the voice. Because the real Earth wouldn't burn like this. Our people are fighters. They wouldn't give up so easily. And besides, Tae opened his eyes and looked directly at the crystal structure. If this was really happening now, you would have shown us the moment we arrived. You're testing our resolve by showing us our fears. The burning Earth vanished, replaced by the normal starfield. The ancient voice sounded almost pleased. Correct. Many species flee at the first sight of their homeworld in danger. Your species shows wisdom beyond its years. The second trial began immediately. One by one, each crew member on the bridge began to change. They found themselves alone, standing, in places that meant everything to them. Lieutenant Park stood in his childhood home where his elderly parents waited for him. They looked exactly as he remembered them, smiling with love and pride. Son, his father said, you've done enough fighting. Stay here with us. Be happy. Commander Lee found herself in a perfect recreation of her wedding day, standing beside her husband who had died in the first Vextai attack. He looked exactly as she remembered him, young and handsome and alive. "I've missed you so much," he whispered. "Don't leave me again. Stay here forever." Dr. Kang stood in a magnificent laboratory, filled with every piece of equipment she had ever dreamed of owning. Alien technology that could unlock the secrets of the universe lay within her reach. "Everything you've ever wanted to know," a voice promised. "Just abandon your mission and claim your reward." But Captain Tay saw something different. He stood on the bridge of a massive starship, far larger than any vessel humanity had ever built. Through the viewports, he could see a vast fleet under his command, millions of ships stretched to the horizon. "You could be the greatest military leader in galactic history," the ancient voice whispered. "Command fleets beyond counting, conquer worlds without limit. All you need to do is abandon your small mission and accept our gift." The temptation was enormous. Tay could feel the power calling to him, but as he looked at the massive fleet, he realized something was wrong. All the ships were empty, no crew, no life, just endless vessels floating in perfect formation. "Where are the people?" he asked. "People are inefficient," the voice replied. "Great leaders need only power, not followers." "No," Tay said firmly. "A leader without people to lead is just someone talking to himself. I don't want power for its own sake. I want to save my people." One by one, the illusions faded. Each crew member had rejected their perfect temptation, choosing duty over desire. They found themselves back on the real bridge of the Defiance, looking at each other with new respect. "Most species fail the second trial," the ancient voice observed. "They are too easily tempted by personal gain. Your species continues to surprise us. The third trial began without warning. The bridge lights went out, replaced by a red emergency glow. Suddenly, the worst fears of each crew member became real. Commander Lee found herself facing a perfect copy of the Vextai commander who had killed her husband. The alien warrior raised his weapon, preparing to strike her down. "Lieutenant." Park was surrounded by the screams of dying civilians, people he had failed to save during evacuations. Their voices accused him of cowardice and failure. Dr. Kang watched helplessly as her research was used to create weapons of mass destruction, her discoveries turned into tools of genocide. Chief Yoon saw every ship he had ever maintained exploding, their crews dying because of his mechanical failures. But Captain Tay faced something worse than death or failure. He saw himself as an old man, sitting alone in a command chair, surrounded by the graves of everyone who had followed his orders. Every crew member who had ever served under him was dead, sacrificed for his ambitions. "This is what leadership truly costs," his older self said with bitter laughter. "Everyone who follows you will die. Everyone who trusts you will be betrayed. Is your mission worth all their lives?" Tay looked around at his crew, seeing their individual struggles with their deepest fears. These people had chosen to follow him despite his youth. They trusted him with their lives and their futures. "Yes," he said quietly, "but not because I'm willing to sacrifice them. Because they're willing to sacrifice themselves. That's what makes us human. We choose to risk everything for others, even when we're afraid." As he spoke, Tay moved to help Commander Lee face her enemy. His action inspired the others, who began supporting each other instead of fighting their fears alone. Together they were stronger than any individual terror. The fears vanished, replaced by normal lighting. For the first time, the ancient voice sounded truly impressed. "Remarkable. Most species either break under their fears or try to face them alone. Your species instinctively supports each other. This is unexpected." Ensign O'Min appeared on the communication screen from the escort destroyer Sol. His young face was excited but also worried. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy buildups throughout the Nexus. Something big is about to happen." The crystal structure began to glow brighter, its patterns of light moving faster and faster. The ancient voice spoke one final time before the real trials began. "You have passed the preliminary tests, young humans. But now comes the true challenge. Are you ready to learn what it really means to be worthy of the architect's knowledge? 3 days into their journey toward the Nexus, Captain Kim Tae was reviewing tactical reports in his ready room when the emergency alarm began blaring throughout the ship. He rushed to the bridge, where Lieutenant Park Jun was frantically working, at his station. "Report," Tae ordered as he took his command chair. "Captain, we've got trouble," Commander Lee Hana announced from her weapons console. "Long-range sensors are picking up a Kethmori battle fleet moving to intercept us. At least 30 ships, including 3 heavy cruisers." Tae felt his stomach tighten. The Kethmori Empire was one of the most aggressive alien species in the galaxy. Unlike the methodical Vextai, the Kethmori were brutal and unpredictable. They had declared war on humanity simply because they enjoyed fighting. "How long until they reach us?" Tae asked. 2 hours, maybe less," Park replied. "They're pushing their engines hard. They really want to stop us from reaching the Nexus." "Chief," Engineer Yoon Minho's voice crackled over the communication system. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures from their ships. These aren't patrol vessels. They brought their best warships." Tae stood and walked to the tactical display, studying the enemy formation. 30 alien ships against his 12 human vessels. The odds were terrible, but he had faced worse before. The real problem was the civilian transport ship that had joined their convoy. The transport ship Harmony had been fleeing from a destroyed colony when they encountered Tae's fleet. It carried over 2,000 civilian refugees, including many children. The ship's captain had begged to join their convoy for protection. Tae couldn't refuse. But now the Harmony was slowing them down. The old transport couldn't keep up with military vessels, and its weak engines would make escape impossible if they tried to run from the Kethmori. "Sir," Commander Lee said quietly, "I have to ask, are we going to abandon the transport ship?" The bridge went silent. Everyone knew it was a logical question. Military doctrine was clear. The mission came first. Saving humanity required reaching the Nexus. One transport ship, even with 2,000 people aboard, wasn't worth risking the entire human race. Tae looked at the tactical display again. The Kethmori ships were getting closer. Soon they would be in weapons range. He had to make a decision that would affect thousands of lives. "No," he said firmly. "We protect the Harmony." "Captain," Lee protested, "we can't fight 30 ships while protecting a slow transport. It's suicide." "Maybe," Tae agreed. "But I won't sacrifice innocent people to save my own mission. There has to be another way." Lieutenant Park looked up from his sensor station. "Captain, I'm detecting something interesting. There's a pulsar nearby about 3 light minutes from our position. The gravity field is massive." Tae's eyes lit up as an idea began forming in his mind. "Chief Yoon, what's the status of our gravitational shields?" "Operating at full capacity, Captain. Why?" "Because we're going to do something crazy." Tae turned to address his bridge crew. "All ships, this is Captain Kim. We're going to use the pulsar's gravity field to our advantage. I need everyone to trust me and follow my lead exactly." "Commander," Lee shook her head. "Captain, pulsars are incredibly dangerous. The gravitational forces alone could tear our ships apart." "That's exactly what the Kethmori will think too," Tae replied with a slight smile. "They'll assume we're running scared and trying to hide behind the pulsar. They won't expect us to use it as a weapon." As the human fleet changed course toward the pulsar, the Kethmori ships accelerated to intercept them. The alien commander probably thought the humans were making a desperate attempt to escape. He was about to learn how wrong he was. "All ships, maintain tight formation," Tae commanded. "We need to time this perfectly." The Harmony's captain, an older man named Bae Dong, appeared on the communication screen. His face was pale with worry. "Captain Kim, my ship can't handle the gravitational stress of a close pulsar approach. Our hull will buckle." "Trust me, Captain Bae. Just keep your ship exactly where I tell you, and everything will be fine." The Kethmori fleet was now within weapons range. Energy beams began lashing out at the human ships, but Tae ordered his fleet to maintain course without returning fire. This confused the aliens, who expected the humans to fight back immediately. "Captain, they're targeting our Engines, reported Lieutenant Park. 3 direct hits on the destroyer Soul. Hold course, Tay replied calmly. Not yet. The human fleet drew closer to the pulsar. The massive stellar object spun rapidly, sending out intense beams of radiation, but more importantly, its incredible gravitational field was bending space itself around it. Now, Tay shouted, all ships emergency power to gravitational shields and execute slingshot maneuver. The human ships suddenly accelerated as they caught the pulsar's gravitational field. Like ancient sailing ships using the wind, they rode the gravity waves around the stellar object. But instead of flying away, Tay had calculated a course that would bring them back toward the Kethmori fleet at incredible speed. The alien ships were caught completely off guard. They had been chasing what they thought were fleeing humans, only to find their prey suddenly racing toward them at nearly the speed of light. All weapons, fire, Commander Lee shouted. The human ships, moving far faster than should have been possible, slammed into the Kethmori formation like a hammer. Energy weapons and missiles struck alien hulls before their shields could adjust. The surprise was so complete that several Kethmori ships exploded before they could return fire. But the battle wasn't over. The remaining alien ships quickly regrouped and began fighting back with desperate fury. Space filled with energy beams, missiles, and debris as the 2 fleets clashed in deadly combat. The Harmony is taking damage, reported Park. Their shields are failing. Tay watched as alien fighters swarmed around the helpless transport ship. Without military weapons or armor, it couldn't defend itself. The 2,000 civilians aboard were about to die unless someone helped them. This is Captain Kim to all fighters, Tay announced over the communication system. Protect the Harmony at all costs. I don't care what else happens, that ship and its people survive. Human fighter pilots responded immediately, throwing themselves between the alien attackers and the transport ship. Tay watched as young pilots, some barely older than himself, sacrificed their lives to save strangers they had never met. Ensign Omin, flying a badly damaged fighter, made the ultimate sacrifice. His ship was falling apart, engines failing and weapons empty. But instead of ejecting to save himself, he rammed his fighter directly into a Kethmori cruiser that was targeting the Harmony. The explosion tore a massive hole in the alien ship's hull. Min's down, reported the flight leader, his voice tight with emotion. But he got the cruiser. The Harmony is safe. The battle continued for another hour, but the tide had turned. The Kethmori, shocked by the humans' willingness to die, for civilians began to retreat. Their ships had superior technology, but they couldn't match the human spirit. As the last alien ship disappeared into faster-than-light travel, Tay surveyed the damage. His fleet had lost 4 ships and nearly 300 crew members. But the Harmony survived, along with all 2,000 civilians aboard. Commander Lee approached him, her expression thoughtful. Captain, what you did today, using the pulsar as a gravitational slingshot, I've never seen anything like it. How did you know it would work? Tay looked tired but satisfied. I didn't know for sure, but sometimes you have to take risks to achieve the impossible. The Kethmori expected us to run or fight conventionally. They didn't expect us to turn their own expectations against them. Dr. Kang Su, the fleet's science officer, appeared on the bridge carrying a data tablet. She looked excited and worried at the same time. Captain, I've been analyzing the sensor data from the battle. Something strange happened when we approached the pulsar. The gravitational fields did more than just accelerate our ships. They seemed to enhance something. Our reaction times, our coordination, even our weapons accuracy all improved dramatically. Tay frowned. What are you saying, Doctor? I'm saying the pulsar wasn't natural. Someone or something modified it, and when our ships got close, it changed us too. Made us better somehow. The implications were troubling. If alien technology could enhance human abilities, what else was waiting for them at the Nexus? And more importantly, would humanity still be human when this mission was over? As the battered fleet continued toward their destination, Tay couldn't shake the feeling that the real test was just beginning. Kim Tay stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, his hands clasped behind his back as he watched the stars through the massive viewport. At 19 years old, he was the youngest person ever to command a battleship in the United Earth Fleet. The weight of that responsibility pressed down on his shoulders like a heavy blanket. "Captain, we're receiving new orders from Fleet Command," said Lieutenant Park Jun from the communication station. His voice carried the same mix of respect and uncertainty that Tay heard from most of his crew. They followed his orders because they had to, but he could see the doubt in their eyes. "Put it on screen," Tay replied, turning to face the main display. Admiral Wang's weathered face appeared on the screen. The old man looked tired, more tired than Tay had ever seen him. Behind, the Admiral Tay could see the bustling activity of Fleet Command's war room. Red warning lights flashed continuously, indicating the dire state of the war. "Captain Kim," Admiral Wang began, his voice heavy with exhaustion, "you and your battle group are humanity's last hope. 3 months ago, our scouts discovered an ancient alien structure at the edge of known space. We call it the Nexus. Our scientists believe it holds technology that could turn the tide of this war." Tay listened carefully, his young face serious and focused. Around him, his bridge crew had gone silent. Everyone knew how badly the war was going. The alien Vextai had pushed human forces back to just a few dozen star systems. Earth itself was under constant threat. "Your mission is simple in concept but nearly impossible in execution," the Admiral continued. "Take your ships to the Nexus, learn its secrets, and do whatever it takes to save our species. The Galactic Council has already written us off as a failed race. They think we're too young, too reckless to handle advanced technology. You need to prove them wrong." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in heavy silence. Tay could feel every eye on him, waiting for his reaction. He took a deep breath and turned to address his crew. "You heard the Admiral," he said, his voice steady despite his age. "We have work to do. Lieutenant Park, set course for the Nexus. Coordinates. Commander Lee, I want all weapons systems checked and ready. Chief Yoon, how are our engines?" Commander Lee Hana, his weapons officer, stepped forward. She was 15 years older than Tay and had been fighting in space battles since before he was born. Her face showed clear skepticism about following such a young captain into what would likely be a suicide mission. "Captain," she said carefully, "perhaps we should discuss strategy before we rush into unknown space. The area around the Nexus is reported to be heavily contested. Several alien species are fighting for control of it." Tay nodded, appreciating her concern even if he could hear the doubt in her voice. "You're right, Commander. But we don't have time for extended planning. Every day we delay, more human colonies fall to the Vextai. Sometimes the best strategy is quick action." Chief Engineer Yoon Minho spoke up from his console. He was a practical man who cared more about results than rank or age. "Engines are running at peak efficiency, Captain. But if we're going into a war zone, I recommend we stop at Station 7 for additional supplies and ammunition." "Good thinking, Chief. Make it happen." Tay turned back to the viewport, watching as his small fleet of 12 ships began to move. It wasn't much compared to the massive armadas that had fought in the early days of the war, but it was all humanity had left. As the ships jumped to faster than light speed, Tay reflected on how he had gotten here. Just 2 years ago he had been a cadet at the Naval Academy, barely old enough to shave. Then came the Battle of Titan, where he had served as a junior tactical officer on a destroyer. When the Vextai had launched a surprise attack on humanity's outer colonies, the human fleet had been caught completely off guard. Ship after ship had fallen to the aliens' superior technology and numbers. Tay's destroyer had been one of the last ships standing when he noticed something others had missed. The Vextai ships moved in perfect formation, following precise mathematical patterns. It was beautiful and efficient, but it was also predictable. While the human commanders tried to match the aliens' discipline, Tay suggested something different. Instead of trying to be perfect, they should be chaotic. He convinced his captain to let the remaining human ships break formation and attack from random directions. The plan went against everything they had learned in military school, but it worked. The Vextai couldn't adapt to the humans' unpredictable movements. For the first time in the war, humanity won a major battle. That victory had made Tay famous throughout the fleet. Promotion followed quickly along with his own command, but fame came with a price. Everyone expected miracles from the boy genius who had saved Titan. The pressure was enormous. "Captain, we're approaching Station 7, announced Lieutenant Park, pulling Tay from his thoughts. The space station hung in the void like a metal flower, its arms extending in all directions. Ships of various sizes docked at different levels, taking on supplies and crew. But Tay noticed something troubling. There weren't many military vessels. Most of the ships looked like civilian transports and cargo haulers. "Hail the station commander," Tay ordered. A few minutes later, the face of Commander Cho Yoon appeared on screen. She looked exhausted and worried. "Captain Kim, thank God you're here. We've been evacuating civilians from the outer colonies. The Vextai are moving faster than we expected." "How long do we have?" Tay asked. "Maybe a week, maybe less. My scouts report Vextai advance fleets are already probing our defenses. When they attack in force, this station won't stand a chance." Tay made a quick decision. "Commander Cho, I want you to evacuate immediately. Take your people and as many civilians as possible and head for Earth. Don't wait for us." "But Captain, what about the supplies you need?" "We'll make do with what we have. Getting those people to safety is more important than our mission supplies." Commander Lee stepped closer to Tay, speaking quietly. "Captain, without those supplies, our chances of success drop significantly. We need every advantage we can get." Tay looked at her, then at the faces of the bridge crew. They were all watching him, waiting to see what kind of captain he really was. Would he sacrifice civilian lives for military advantage? Or would he risk everything to save people he had never met? "Commander Lee, I understand your concern, but we're not just fighting to win battles. We're fighting to save humanity. That includes the people on those transport ships. If we win this war but lose our souls in the process, what's the point?" The older woman studied his face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Yes, sir, I understand." As the Defiance and her escort ships moved away from Station 7, Tay watched the evacuation ships heading toward Earth. He hoped he had made the right choice. In a few hours, they would reach the edge of known space and begin their journey to the Nexus. Chief Yoon appeared at his side. "Captain, the crew is talking. They're starting to believe in you. What you did back there, choosing to save civilians over our own mission advantages, that meant something to them." Tay smiled slightly. "Good. We're going to need everyone working together if we want to succeed. The Nexus isn't just another battle. According to the reports, it's something completely different, something that could change everything." As the stars stretched into lines around them, the small human fleet jumped toward their destiny. Behind them, the evacuation ships carried thousands of civilians toward safety. Ahead lay the unknown, and possibly humanity's last chance for survival. The youngest captain in fleet history was about to face his greatest test.